you guys know, we're here for the Scituate Chamber's Candidates Forum tonight at the Scituate Public Library. We have Democratic nominee for the state rep seat, Patrick Kearney. We have Republican nominee, Ed O'Connell. And running as an independent, we have Nathaniel Powell. So you guys all have the rules, so we're just going to kind of jump right in. Also, we're going to ask you guys to hand the mic back and forth. And we can start just going in this order, and each question just alternate with the first one start. So Pat can start, and the next question will have Ed, and the next question, Nate. Is that good?
Sounds good.
Cool. That work?
Yep.
All right. Excellent. So also just to note, all these questions were submitted by people to the chamber. I've gone through them in kind of consolidated repeats and made sure that the questions are relevant to the job that the state reps will be, the state rep will have if they're elected, and to make sure that the questions are pertinent to our area to keep it, as useful as possible for South Shore voters. So a lot of the questions that were received were asking candidates to specifically outline their connections to the communities that they're hoping to represent as state rep. So the first question is going to be actually 3 specific questions, and we're asking the candidates to say each one specifically and without elaboration. All right? So Pat, I'm going to read all 3, and then you guys can just go down the line. Make sense? Cool. So the first question is, how long have you been a resident of this district? Second is, did you attend school in this district? And if you have children, did they or do they attend school in the district? And then third, have you held any volunteer positions or committee positions, elected or not, in either town or district? Oh, right, sorry. We forgot to let the candidates either open statements, which is part of the rule. Just so eager to get involved. So opening statements, there you go.
So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. And I really appreciate the Scituate Chamber of Commerce for putting this together. And thank you to the membership and public for tuning in online or on Scituate Cable Television. As I have said all along, the public engagement in this race has been very exciting. I'm Patrick Kearney. I'm running for the open state representative seat in the 4th Plymouth District. During the primary season, I worked very hard to knock on over 6,800 doors, and I listened to the concerns of the people carefully. I'm a lifelong resident of the South Shore, and my family roots go back to 1928 when my great-grandfather built our original family home in Scituate. As I have reiterated throughout the campaign, the issues of our community are not just talking points for me. They are me. I get these communities as places of resources, potential, need, and challenge. And because I love these communities, I want to give my best self as the next state representative. I work in both Marshfield and Scituate as a captain on charter and commercial fishing boats. I'm a small business owner. I started up my own maritime education software company to help students prepare for their Coast Guard licenses. I'm a member of the IATSE Local 11 Stage Handlers Union, and I'm the Vice President of Business Development with software engine Price Blocks. My private sector experience demands self-initiative, discipline, collaboration, fiscal responsibility, and accountability. I'm a graduate of the Massachusetts Maritime Academy, and I'm a proud officer in the Navy Strategic Sea Lift Readiness Force, which supports the United States Navy Reserve component of U.S. Transportation Command. This is a branch of service requiring command of self, government proceedings, budget planning, and results-oriented strategies. I'm of the belief that if you're going to represent the people, that you have to know the people, and the priorities that I have mentioned throughout my campaign of supporting unions, working families, solving the opioid epidemic, helping small business and the fishing community, government fiscal responsibility, access to clean tap water, and a new senior center have been frequent concerns when I've been speaking with the voters in Marshfield and Scituate. My doorstep discussions with each of you haven't stopped. I have the work ethic, the energy, and the stamina to push through the finish line. I hope to be your next state representative, and I'm looking forward to tonight's discussions.
Thanks, Pat.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, James, and thank you all for coming, and thank you to the Scituate Chamber of Commerce for having this. And I want to thank my colleagues for also being here as well. My name is Ed O'Connell, and I'm a 26-year resident of Marshfield. I'm married to my wife, Darlene, right here, and we have 2 daughters, Amanda and Lindsay, both of whom went through the Marshfield public school system. And they both graduated from prestigious private schools, so it's a testament of their school education. Myself, I graduated from Wentworth Institute of Technology. I then earned a Master's in Business Administration from Suffolk University in Boston. I have over 30 years private and public sector experience with GE and Raytheon Company in the high-tech industry, and then for the State Treasurer's Office, and for the past 26 years with the State Lottery Commission, where I've served in capacities as accounting, finance, and sales. Also, for the past 8 years, I've worked as a Plymouth County Reserve Deputy Sheriff, working in both Scituate and Marshfield. I've been civically engaged. I've worked on the school boards as a volunteer when my daughters were going through school at the elementary, middle school, and high school level. I've also been president of the Ventress Memorial Library and Friends of Youth Soccer vice president as well. I was also elected chairman of the Plymouth County Charter Commission. As your representative, I'll focus on the seawalls, long-term infrastructure, ongoing opioid crisis, the brown water here in Scituate, and obviously for our seniors and our veterans, and make sure they have the funding they need and the resources to enjoy a great quality of life. Also, work on behalf of schools and make sure we have proper school funding. I look forward to working closely with the Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito administration and listening to the concerns of the residents of Scituate and Marshfield. And I'll always be there for you. I'll be responsive, and I look forward to earning your vote on November 6th. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank the Scituate Chamber of Commerce for hosting this forum this evening, and everyone in attendance for taking the time out of their evening to educate themselves on the candidates running for the open State Representative Plymouth 4th District seat. My name is Nathaniel Powell. I am a third-generation Marshfield resident, presently residing in town. I graduated from Marshfield High School. I graduated from UMass Amherst with honors from the Eisenberg School of Management. I am married to my wife, Jennifer. She is currently a nurse, and together we have 5 children, all in the Marshfield school system. We have 2 in the high school, 2 in the elementary school, and we have 1 in preschool. I am a firefighter paramedic in Marshfield, an active member on the union's executive board, Local 2568, currently serving as the treasurer, representing my local on the insurance advisory committee, and I've negotiated multiple contracts with my executive board. I also own and operate a small landscape excavation company in Marshfield because, as many of you realize, it is very difficult to survive these days with only one job. I am an independent candidate for the Plymouth 4th District State Representative seat. I am running as an independent because I want to be the candidate that is for the people and not for the party. As a state representative, or a state representative, is someone who represents a collective body of constituents on Beacon Hill. Who better to represent this body than someone who has lived in your shoes, continues to live in your shoes, someone that has the pulse of the community, an individual that will vote against legislation that adversely affects the district because he is not tied to a political party. There are several issues that are facing our community, our district presently, from the opioid epidemic, coastal infrastructure, education, healthcare, just to name a few. This community needs a leader that will bring their voice to Beacon Hill to be heard. Thank you.
Awesome, and I think the candidates addressed the first question in their opening statement, so we can get rid of that one. And also good news, that each candidate was about a minute under their allotted time, so we might be able to get home in time to watch some of the Red Sox game. All right, so cool. Jumping to our second question, and again, these are ones that were submitted by members of the community to the Chamber of Commerce. So second one, a number, and this is actually ties in really well with what you guys were just talking about. So a lot of the voters wanted to hear about how your work experience, both in the private and the public sector, are going to relate to your job as state representative and what skills you've gained there that are going to help you serve the communities best. So we started with Pat on that, so let's start with Ed on the next one.
Hi, thank you. Well, what I'll bring to the table as your representative, my background in accounting and finance at the state lottery for over 26 years, and my high-tech private sector background will serve me well working with budgets at the state level. I've worked on billion-dollar budgets as a state accountant for the Lottery Commission and as a financial projects administrator. I ran the annuities fund, which pays out the prize winners. I dealt with the offices at the state level, administration and finance, the comptroller's office. So I know budgeting and I know how to look at financial statements. I'll be fiscally responsible to the voters of Scituate and Marshfield, and I know that there's a bottom line to look after. I've been endorsed by the National Federation of Businesses, which is the small business spokesperson in the state. So they recognize my leadership as far as small businesses go. I've been endorsed by Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito. So they understand that I've been involved for the past 30 years in public sector finance and in the private sector and civically engaged. So I'll build on that relationship with the administration to bring back the necessary resources that Scituate and Marshfield need to fix their infrastructure, to fix the roads, to fix the seawalls, to improve our water quality. And I'll do what I can to make sure your voice is heard on Beacon Hill. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. And just so you guys know, we asked the candidates to keep their answers to 2 minutes, and that was a great time.
Okay.
No, you're good. Just wanted to let everyone know.
Mike's in a second.
So we'll go, yeah,
Furthermore,
counterpoint.
All right. Well, I feel my experience as a firefighter, I've been dealing with the opioid epidemic firsthand since the onset. I've been involved knee-deep in it. I feel my experience there. Can you guys hear me?
yes.
Yep. I feel like my experience there, I can help bring a new mindset to dealing with this problem. It is a multi-level, multi-dimensional problem. There is no one solution to it. One of the first things I would love to see is what they call Section 35, and Section 35 is a piece of legislation that can be passed very quickly. Basically what it does is if you have a loved one that is in danger of overdosing, essentially, you can file with the courts and get them to a hospital, get them basically the help that they need, and get them into a recovery program. But right now the problem is you can only do that Monday through Friday during judge's hours, and I would like to see that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's just one small step that I would love to see in fighting this problem. Also, being on the union, I'm negotiating many contracts, negotiating many insurance deals for health insurance, and then being just a small business owner, being fiscally responsible, and I feel that those are my big things I bring to the table.
Thank you so much for asking that question, because I think it's one of the most important questions that needs to be asked of the candidates running for state rep. I think that the most important thing in the next state representative is that they know the concerns of the people that they're going to represent. I walk in the shoes of the people I'm going to represent. I work as a member of the charter and commercial fishing industry in both Marshfield and Scituate. I live in a flood zone. I've started my own small business. I'm working as a member of the local 11 IATSE Stage Handlers Union. So my work ethic, my understanding in both the private and public sectors, and my ability to work to hear the stories and the concerns of all the constituents in Marshfield and Scituate, to ask them what their priorities are at their door, to listen to that and take that to the State House is what is the most important thing, and I think makes me the best candidate to be state representative. I was at the South Shore Lobstermen's Association meeting about 2 weeks ago, and it was brought to my attention that the governor was putting together a commission to look at the 3.5-month lobster closure in Cape Cod Bay. There were 4 associations on that commission, and the South Shore Lobstermen's Association that was being affected by that closure did not have a seat at the table, did not have a voice on that commission. Yet Marshfield and Scituate combined being the 3rd largest fishing port in the Commonwealth is now not having a seat at that table. I called 2 reps. I called Representative Machino, Representative Cutler, Republican State Senator Patrick O'Connor, and I wrote a letter to the governor. And it passed 2 days ago in the supplemental budget that the South Shore Lobstermen's Association has a seat on that commission.
That's it.
I know what to do to give the people of Marshfield and Scituate a voice. I'm working on their behalf now. I will continue to ask the residents of Marshfield and Scituate what their concerns are, and that's why I'll be the best favorite.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Next question is going to stay on the topic of business. So both Marshfield and Scituate have very vibrant small business communities. So voters seem to definitely want to know how are you guys going to support that existing small business community and also help to draw more businesses to our communities. So we'll start with Nate on this one.
One of the biggest things I would like to see, just being a small business owner, I would love to see bill bundling done away with. I feel like as your representative, we don't do you justice when we bundle bills together. We're not doing our job looking at every individual bill. When they get bundled, things get missed. One of the big examples I keep using that really killed my business, or really hurt my business, I don't want to say killed, was 2009, 2010 with the automatic fuel tax that was bundled into a bigger bill, and it was kind of, I felt like, overlooked. And by the end of it, we were paying about $4 a gallon for diesel fuel. It just absolutely crushed us. I know also in that bill was the tech tax bill, or the tech tax, that did a number of small business tech companies under. So I would love to see bill bundling done away with. I think that is a huge proponent to supporting our small business. Our small businesses are what drive the local economy, and I believe that that's one small step again into a bigger problem.
Good. That will kind of cycle it through that way.
So I think if you're going to be an advocate for small business, you need to protect the existing small businesses that are here and also foster an environment for people to start their own small businesses. I've been talking about this since the beginning of the campaign. Massachusetts has the highest LLC fees to start your own company. I'd like to see those lowered to create a better business climate and a better business environment for individuals that want to start their own small business and get on with their life dreams and goals of starting their own business. The fishing industry is a huge part of this. They're burdened with regulations that aren't based on true factual science. They crush the local economy, and making sure that those regulations are both sustainable for the fishermen and for the environment is extremely important. The other thing too, most recently here in Scituate, we've had a huge increase in our water bill. And I understand that we don't have clean tap water. We need to do everything we can to make sure that the tap water is clean. But when those rates go up, people's disposable incomes go down, and they stop spending as much money in the local business economy. We need an advocate on the state level, also fighting for us on the federal level to be securing grant money, state funds, and federal funds to keep our municipality costs low so that individuals that are living in Marshfield and Scituate have the disposable income that they need to spend it in our local businesses.
Well, on that note, as far as just trying to invigorate our already vibrant business economy, as a Republican up on the Hill, I'd be one of the voices trying to reduce taxes, trying to rein in some spending so that, and regulations so that small businesses can prosper and startup companies and entrepreneurs can start a new business without having excess regulations to hold them back. Also, I met with the Marshfield Lobstermen's Commercial Fishermen Association as far as 2 years ago with Governor Baker to discuss ongoing fishermen issues. So, that's something I've been involved with as well on a local level before I even began to run for this office. So it's always been important to me, the community, small businesses, how we're doing in town. As a deputy sheriff, I've seen what goes on with the storms up front and personal, opioid problem, And I think all that has to do, all that infrastructure work that we have to do to repair the seawalls, to do away with the plague of drugs, will help us to invigorate a better economic atmosphere here in town. Thank you.
So sticking on this for just one more question, and it's been touched on by a few candidates, I'm hoping you guys can go in a little bit more depth on how you would plan to support the local fishing, commercial fishing fleet. Obviously advocating for our fishermen is a great thing to do, but can you guys speak more in depth about how and why that's important to you guys, or if it is? We start the other way in Pat now, I think? Yeah.
So the fishing industry is, the regulations are affecting all fishermen. The ongoing 3.5-month lobster closure that was supposed to be a 3-month closure extended another extra 15 days is putting a huge burden on the lobster industry here in Marshfield and Scituate. If any business anywhere else was told they couldn't operate 3 months out of the year, they would struggle. And we need to come up with a reasonable regulation that is not going to shut down their livelihoods for 3.5 months. The ongoing cod closure, we have charter boats in Scituate where people come and they stay at the Fairview Inn in Marshfield, they stay at the Scituate Harbor Inn, they're spending money at Riva, the Mill Wharf, Haddads, or the Jetty when they come into town and they help support our local businesses. Right now, we can't keep any cod in Cape Cod Bay. And south of the 42 latitude line, they can keep 10 cod per person per day. So you're pitting one local economy against another, and that is not sustainable. It should be 5 and 5, or 3 and 3, or 10 and 10, but it can't be 0 and 10, because the people in southeastern Massachusetts and down the Cape in the charter industry are having an unfair advantage over the Marshfield and Scituate residents. Haddock most recently closed. They accused the charter fishing industry of catching too many cod while we were haddock fishing. It's a ridiculous regulation. You can't put a number on how many cod die when we're haddock fishing, and they don't always swim together. So you're further putting the charter boat industry at a disadvantage with the haddock fishery, and it's already disadvantaged with the cod closure. So there's a tremendous amount of regulations. I'd like to see them reduced, and it doesn't only affect the fishing industry, it affects the fuel businesses, the insurance businesses, Melia Fuel, Sean Harris, Andy Wenning's insurance companies, Belson's Bait and Tackle, Scotty Sinclair at Green Harbor. It affects everyone. So.
Thank you. On that industry, I just met last week with the Marshfield Commercial Fishermen Association. They had a lot of issues, as we discussed, but basically what I would bring to the table is just to bring common sense regulation and try to improve on the regulations that are out there now, try to reduce some of the language so that fishermen can work more days out of the year. And I would work closely with the professionals, with the fishermen, to bring those issues up to Beacon Hill. I would work with Lieutenant Governor Polito and the Seaport Economic Council. They have stakeholders of all the coastal communities, and they have grant money available, of which Scituate was just a benefactor of. Some marine work was done in the spring. Also in Marshfield, we had a new maritime center, which just had a debut about 2 months ago. So those are great things going on with the state, and Lieutenant Governor, the governor, are very proactive in this respect. So I think we have friends in the corner office, and you'll have a friend in me working hard on your behalf and the fishermen's behalf to make sure their industry is vibrant, that they're working so that our restaurants in Brant Rock and on Front Street are always filled, always busy, and I will work as hard as I can to make that happen. Thank you.
So I've been talking a lot with John Haslam. He's the president of the South Shore Lobstermen Association, and he's done a lot of work. He's done a lot of homework. They all have. They've come up with special knots. It's almost like a Chinese finger knot that's supposed to break away if a whale does get entangled in the gear. He's also proposed the spacing them out. He set up to 40 feet which is about the size of a mature right whale. It's just trying to get the right people together, the organizations that make these regulations and the fishermen, and get them working together to get a compromise. There is really no reason for them to have a 2-week extra closing this year, especially considering there has never been a right whale entanglement with lobster gear goated around here. And in this case, I would almost like to act like as the middleman, just try and get these people, we have to get the people that made the regulations and get them on these boats as observers to figure out what these fishermen are doing, and they are doing their homework, and they're trying to make this work. And like it's been said, Green Harbor in particular is the 3rd, 4th top commercial grossing harbor on the south in Massachusetts for the past at least 10 years. So it is a problem that we have to figure out.
Thanks, guys. We'll start with Ed, the next question. So linked with the concerns about our fishing population and our fishing fleet are, of course, the environmental concerns that come along with that. And so many people in our community advocate for a healthy environment, be it through removing dams along the north and south rivers, or through plastic bag bans, like was passed in Marshfield in the spring, and like is coming up in Scituate's special town meeting next month. So what kind of role do you see yourself playing in protecting our environments and promoting environmentally friendly practices?
Well, I think I'll be a benefactor, advocate for environmental friendly policies. I went to the town meeting about the plastic bags and I was for the ban. I would just advocate for common sense regulations or rulings that help improve the environment here in Marshfield and Scituate. That's the reason I moved here 26 years ago with my wife, with a beautiful coastline, the beaches, open space, and we enjoy taking walks along the beach, in the open fields, in the Audubon in Marshfield. So that's very important to me in making sure our towns maintain the character that we all enjoy. Being able to walk downtown, being able to have walkability in Marshfield, where our chamber is working on a walkability project. I know your chamber here in Scituate are working on some very exciting initiatives as well. So I've been here, I've seen your Scituate Days, Scituate Heritage Days, I've seen your harbor. It's a vibrant harbor, it's bustling. I'd like to see that thrive, and as your representative, everything I do will be in your best interest and the environment's best interest. Thank you.
So, as far as protecting the environment, I would love to promote clean energy. I know in the last town meeting in Marshfield, they passed putting solar panels up in some apartment spots. I think that's a move in the right direction. I also believe in the walkability that I know the Marshfield Chamber of Commerce is promoting, just to promote some of these characteristics that make our communities our communities. You got the rivers, the beaches, the ocean. I would love to see more of that. I also do feel that this plays into it. 40B reform plays into this, because I believe that we are kind of held at the grips of 40B, especially in this community, and it's taken a lot of the characteristics of our towns away. You go down there behind Roche Brothers in Marshfield, and they're just clear-cutting the forest there, and I don't agree with that. And it's all because we don't meet the 10% 40B housing over there. But you put in these big developments, and it's like a dog chasing its tail. We're never going to hit 10% at this rate. There's got to be some reform, and it's got to be done soon. Otherwise, we're going to lose the characteristics that make our towns our towns.
So we only have one Earth, and we have to take care of it. Throughout the campaign, we've been talking a lot about how we need to work with everyone to get things done. whether that's with the governor's office, with the Senate, with federal elected officials. It's important that we work with everybody. But when looking at the candidates for state representative, who's going to be able to get things done in the House of Representatives? The Senate passed a lot of climate change initiatives this year. The House didn't pass any of those climate change initiatives. We need a strong advocate in the House that's going to fight for those initiatives to make sure that they pass both houses and get to the governor's desk. Environment has a huge, and rising sea levels play a huge role in this district. We have over 2,000 homes in the floodplain in Marshfield, over 1,500 in Scituate, and a vibrant business community that's in the flood zone as well. We don't always have accurate flood insurance maps. It puts an unduly burden on the businesses and the people living in our communities. So we need to have accurate flood insurance maps. The individuals in the flood zone shouldn't unduly be paying into a system that they don't need to be. The people that need to pay their fair share in the system in high velocity zones, need to be paying into that system. But what are we doing to mitigate the effects of the climate change, to reduce the sea level rise and reduce our carbon footprint as much as we can? We're not doing that with the passage of bills in the House right now, and I'm going to make sure that they pass.
Thank you, guys. So in recent years, there's been a lot of municipal construction in our towns. Scituate's constructing a new middle school, or the beautiful library we're in, or the public safety complex along 3A, or in Marshfield, where we have a brand new maritime center and the high school that was built just a few years ago. So a lot of these structures and these projects are leaving residents feeling overburdened by expanding tax rates. And that's all at the same time while they see the existing structures that we have fall into disrepair due to a lack of routine maintenance as they see it. So the big question for you guys is, so many of these projects have been funded in part by grants from the state level. As state rep, how will you work to make sure that the investments that are being made with these state grants are worth the investment from the state level, that we maintain our facilities and we make sure that everyone's getting the most for their money? So we're going to start with Nate on this one.
So again, Marshfield Town Meeting, we'll bring that back up. They agreed to increase the maintenance facility managers' pay and there's in their maintenance budget, which I think is a step in the right direction. There's many buildings that are just falling into disarray rather than building new ones, and again, overburdening the taxpayers. We should be looking into ways to maintain what we already have and not trying to overburden everything, the residents of our towns. One of the big things is, the questions we always get is, how do we attract more younger people to live in Marshfield, Scituate? And I believe that they're being overpriced. They can't afford to live here. It's too expensive already. And we all want the nicest, the new facilities, but at the same time, we have to maintain what we have so we can attract more younger people to live around here and keep the cost down.
We'll go to Pat.
So on the local level, I think as a state representative, when looking at funds to fund projects, there's not an unlimited amount of funds. And I think what a lot of people talk about with government is fiscal responsibility. And fiscal responsibility is balancing the necessary government services that we need as citizens and limiting unnecessary bureaucratic spending. But in Marshfield and Scituate, we do a pretty good job at writing grants, at trying to find the available funds from all sources. Marshfield at town meeting, when I was there the other day, just proposed a part-time grant writer to make sure that we have someone working in our towns fighting for those grants. But of the priorities, in Scituate we don't have clean tap water. In Scituate we haven't had a senior center that has had a shingle replaced on it since 80, 90 years ago. So making sure that we look at our future population, We know that we have an aging population. Between 2010 and 2030, our senior population is going to rise to 37%, to make sure that it's affordable to live in those communities and to not overburden the municipalities with that expense. When we overburden the municipality, people move out of the neighborhood, it becomes unaffordable to live. We have a great community here. We need to make sure that the people that have lived here and grown up here stay here, and that they have the appropriate resources and necessary funding from the state and the federal government so that they aren't overburdened on the municipal level.
On this issue, I've met with both town administrators, Michael Maresco from Marshfield and Jim Boudreau from Scituate, just to get an overview of the projects going on and the financial situation in each town. I found that basically what they want from a representative is being responsive and being there to answer the call, to be a voice for them up on Beacon Hill. That's what I plan to do. I think what we need to do is, we don't want to overtax the residents. We don't want to overtax our seniors and young families and scare them away from our town. We want them to stay in town and to be a part of our communities. I think the way to do that is to maintain our infrastructure, keep our taxes low, and just make sure we're doing the things that we have to do at the same time being fiscally responsible, looking at the bottom line. I would prepare a master list of and prioritize our local projects so that we know we need a senior center. We know we need new roads on Central Ave. We know we need a new roof or work to be done in certain areas on 3A, new lighting. So that would be a priority. Also, as a deputy sheriff, I've seen the seawalls. You know, I've seen the damage done. I've seen senior centers. I've had to transport seniors from Scituate to Marshfield because of, you know, one facility wasn't good, didn't have a generator. So I was just doing that last spring when we had the 3 big storms. So I think the main thing is making sure that we find the resources available and we get that money back to our towns so that we can fund these worthwhile projects for our seniors, for our veterans, and for the community as a whole. Thank you.
So I think we're back to Pat for start. I got that right, sorry if I didn't. So we build these beautiful schools and we have all these amazing students. So one of the most important parts of that education picture is, of course, our educators. What do you feel are the biggest challenges facing our town's educators, and what would you do as state representative to assist them?
So this goes back to what I was talking about earlier with the legislature not passing certain bills, and how, as this next state representative, I'm going to make sure and work for the residents of Marshfield and Scituate that the bills that they need passed get passed in the House of Representatives. The Chapter 70 education funding formula has not been looked at or changed since 1993. The state as a whole, as their education system, is terribly underfunded. There are teachers that don't have appropriate student-teacher ratios. I'd like to implement an education curriculum to make sure that our students know the dangers of the ongoing opioid epidemic. It's taking away a generation of people. On the higher education level, I understand firsthand as someone that went to Mass Maritime, a public higher institution, that even those seeking public higher education, it's unaffordable. Throughout this country right now, we have individuals, as a nation, we are more than $1 trillion in student debt. And you can't even get out of that debt in Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So the people that are falling on the hardest of times are followed for the rest of their lives by that debt with high interest rates. So making sure that the teachers have the resources that they need, that the Senate bill that passed, Senate Bill 308, which looks to amend the funding formula, passes the House of Representatives, and also that we keep higher education affordable on the public side of things is critical, as well as making sure that the transportation systems for Marshfield and Scituate stop at the available resources at UMass Boston.
I've always been a strong advocate for education, and I will continue to be so as your representative. I believe the Chapter 70 formula funding needs to be revamped or revised due to the special needs unfunded mandates that go on. I support our teachers, our students, and our public safety first responders in the classroom. I think one of the big things we have to do is make sure education gets the funding they deserve. That's a priority for mine. It's been so since the beginning of this campaign. And Governor Baker has invested over $5 billion in 2018 in education funding. That's one of the highest levels ever. So I would love to partner with the governor, lieutenant governor, and the administration to make sure that Marshfield and Scituate gets a slice of that pie, and it goes right into the school system. Also, just recently, yesterday, there was, on Monday, the legislature finalized the 2018 budget. It gave an additional $7 million to school safety initiatives. That would pay for guidance counselors, school resource officers, additional people that would help out in education. So I'm all for that. I would try to get some more of that money for Scituate. Also, there was additional $40 million for infrastructure money that was in that bill, so included in the budget. So again, that money's there. That's additional money that, as your representative and a voice with the governor, I would get some of that funding to Scituate. Thank you.
So the foundation budget bill, it was passed at the Senate level, it stalled out at the House level. In 1993, it was established. It's supposed to be revised every 4 years, and it has not since 1993. One of the big things as part of the bill that I believe it needs to be passed, it assumes, what they want to do is have real numbers for the special education. And right now it assumes that 15% special education for every single school, and what they want to do is just use real numbers for the percentage that you have of special education at every school, which would bring in additional funding for these schools. The other thing it does is it uses marketplace values for healthcare because the schools, it's still using 1993 prices essentially. The other thing that I would love to see is higher education. The price of higher education is through the roof right now. These kids are walking out with mortgage payments. One of the things that I would really, really like to see is down in Florida, a graduating senior with a 3.0 grade point average or above, the state lottery pays for their tuition to any state school that they're accepted to. I went to the state lottery here. I talked to them. I asked them if that'd be at all possible here. They said probably not because all our money goes to local aid. But so I sort of took it a step further and I asked them, all right, we just got sports gambling legalized here. Can we take that money and throw it towards higher education? And since we already have the infrastructure in place, it wouldn't be an added cost to the state at all. It'd just be another added service. And the CEO at the state
10 seconds.
State lottery said there'd be absolutely no problem with that. He didn't see a problem. So just another step.
Awesome. Great. So you each have touched on it a little bit already, but what steps would you take, especially working together with the district attorney's office and local law enforcement, to address the opioid epidemic? So we're going to start. Yeah.
Okay. Well, as a deputy sheriff, again, I've seen this crisis firsthand. I've been trained in Narcan. I've been trained, unfortunately, in active shooter scenarios for safe schools. But as far as opioids go, I've worked with Deputy Plymouth County Sheriff Joe McDonald and District Attorney Tim Cruz as part of the Plymouth County Drug Enforcement Task Force, and also with Plymouth County Outreach, which is a offshoot of the Plymouth County Drug Task Force. So they were just awarded a national award for their innovative approach to treatment and care for those struggling with opioid abuse. So this is an area where I feel strongly about, I've campaigned strongly about since day one on this, and I feel I'll have an immediate impact of trying to get funds and resources for these programs. Here in Scituate, you have Scituate Facts, we have Marshfield Facts, you also have the Scituate South Shore Peer Recovery Center, which is an excellent resource, and they do wonderful work. I've seen it firsthand, and the directors are great. I want to see them fully funded, do what I can as your representative to make sure groups like this and similar groups can continue their work and hopefully end this scourge. From a law enforcement perspective, I'd be tough on crime. I'd vote up at the State House to have, drug dealers fully sentenced to the extent of the law. I would work with DA Tim Cruz, who's also endorsed my campaign, and Sheriff McDonald to make sure that those dealing these drugs are dealt with harshly. And of course, have compassion for those struggling with opioid addiction.
2 minutes. I'll go ahead. Sorry. Repeat.
So this is a problem, like I said before, I've been dealing with firsthand for ever since I started working in the fire department. Before that, I worked for a private ambulance. I think the state is taking quite a few steps in the right direction. We're prosecuting drug dealers that have been caught dealing drugs to people that have overdosed and died. I think that's a step in the right direction. Like I said before, another incident would be passing this Section 35. It's just another small step in this huge problem that's, like I said before, multi-dimensional, multi-layered problem that there is no one solution for. If we pass that Section 35, some of these struggling families, they wouldn't have to almost essentially babysit their loved ones for a whole weekend, just hoping and praying that nothing bad happens until Monday morning, where they can get filed for the Section 35. I think another big problem that we have going on in this state is the way we deal with mental health and the healthcare in the state altogether. Mental health, I believe, growing up, we had a lot of mental health facilities, and right now, at some point, they felt that if we medicated these people, they could be functioning citizens in society. Problem is when they don't take their medications, or they don't have the funding to get their medications, then they start self-medicating. I know Taunton, Bridgewater, they have the facilities there. They just need the funding to open up these beds for some of these mentally ill people and get them the help that they need. And I think that would greatly reduce the opioid epidemic as we see it now.
I think the opioid crisis is probably, if not the biggest, one of the biggest issues that we're facing. I lost someone 2 days ago. I got a phone call from a friend of mine that someone that I had known well had passed. It's something that we need to tackle as soon as possible, and it's a multifaceted approach. On the South Shore, we have great things like Scituate Peer Recovery, but we don't have the medical facilities and the number of beds that we need on the South Shore. We need affordable and accessible treatment facilities. We need to be tackling it in our schools with a comprehensive education program. We need to be implementing the technology that we have in other communities, like with the use of blockchain technology, to make sure that an individual that fills a prescription at one pharmacy does not then go pay cash and fill that prescription at other pharmacies in the area. It would be one way to reduce the number of drugs on the street. I'm proud to have the support and the endorsement from the Marshfield Police Union and the New England Narcotics Officers Association, who believe that my platform on education, on limiting the number of drugs on the street and working with law enforcement to prosecute the people dealing those drugs on the street is of the utmost priority for us here in Massachusetts. So I'm going to be fighting tooth and nail to make sure that we protect as many people as we possibly can from this ongoing public health crisis.
So we'll start with Nate on the next one. Excellent. So one of the questions that was submitted by voters a couple times is that voters have expressed concern over the amount of outside money that's been contributed to this campaign. So according to reports that have been filed by the campaigns during the primary period, which was the most recent data that's been submitted, 36% of the independents candidates' contributions, $1,700, came from individuals not voting in Marshfield and Scituate. 61% of the Republicans' contributions, $7,075, came from individuals not voting in Marshfield and Scituate. And 70% of the Democrat candidates' contributions, $49,481, came from individuals not voting in Marshfield and Scituate. Additionally, during the primary, the Democratic candidate was the only one to receive support from an outside independent expenditure PAC, which was Democrats for Education Reform. So what role do you guys see this outside money playing in your campaign? And do you think it's appropriate for those that are not voting in these districts to wield this kind of influence?
It's a very long question.
Yeah,
Well, I'll just start off by saying I have not, it's not really an issue for me. I haven't brought in that much money, and I've never brought that much outside money. Do I see a role, or how do I be nice about this? I don't know. If you look at my campaign financing, what I can say is, if you look at my campaign financing, it has all come from the working class people that I represent, that I am a part of, and they've given me everything that they can, whether it's $10, $50, $100. All my contributions have been very small, and I appreciate every single one. Everybody's doing whatever they can for me, and I think that's great. When you start looking outside of the district, I can't say, who are you really representing there? Are they buying your vote there, or are you gonna have an independent mind on Beacon Hill, and are you gonna be forced to vote in the direction that they want you to vote because they gave you a lot of money? And that is a big concern, and it is something to look out for.
Great, thanks. Go on to Pat.
So I'm glad you asked the question. I think that with campaigns, especially for state representative, Marshfield and Scituate, you represent 42,000 people, and you create state law for the Commonwealth for over 6 million residents. The fact is, campaigns do cost money, but I have received campaign donations from people across the state and across the country. There are individuals that have watched my online Facebook video that has over 68,000 views, that know that my young passion for public service, that my energy, my willingness to listen to the concerns of people and bring the concerns of the people that I want to represent to Beacon Hill, that's exciting for people all across the world, because what people are upset with government is they don't feel like their representatives listen to them. I've been working hard for the last 6.5 months to listen to the concerns of everyone, and that message is resonating not only with the over 100 contributors in Marshfield and Scituate, but also with people throughout the Commonwealth. A lot of my support has been from unions as well. They represent a lot of working families here in Massachusetts. As someone that's a member of a union myself, I'm proud to have their support. They're the working class men and women of Massachusetts. So, and the fishermen have been tremendously generous. It's been a long time since they've ever had their voice heard, never mind have a seat at the table. I'm proud to have had a hand in allowing them to have a little bit more of a say. And I'm really excited and proud to have their support, and I can't thank everyone enough for their continued help and contributions, not only grassroots, knocking on doors, holding signs, but also on financial.
Well, thank you. My donations have, as you noted, sounds like a kind of a high percentage outside the district. However, outside the district is mostly Plymouth County, which, comprises the 27 cities and towns of our area. I did have one donation. It was from my brother in North Carolina, which he was generous, thankfully. So all I want to say on that is obviously campaigns do cost a lot of money, as I'm finding out. And but my interest will not be bought. It'll be strictly, my interest will be your interest, the people of Scituate and Marshfield. I'm grateful for any donation that comes my way, as long as it's not, have strings attached. I also am a union member. I've been a dues-paying member of SEIU Local 888 for the past 26 years. Also, I'm a member of the SAG-AFTRA union, which is the motion picture union. We recently did a movie down in Bryn Rock and Marshfield, which was Equalizer 2 with Denzel Washington. So that brought in some much-needed revenue to our area at that point. But as far as the donations go, I appreciate the donations, and I look forward to working hard for the final 3 weeks of this campaign and earning your vote and working hard on your behalf of the folks of Scituate and Marshfield. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, and I saw that you were in SAG, and I was wondering what that was about. Thanks for explaining.
It's a Screen Actors Guild.
Yes. Keeping on the topic of kind of government and people's representation in there, we obviously operate in a town meeting structure in our two towns, and having been to Marshfield, special town meeting the other night, we got under 200 people there out of a rather large town. In Scituate, the turnout numbers at town meetings are also not nearly as high. And in our local elections, when there isn't a national or statewide race going on, we also see similarly lower turnouts. What do you guys think can be done to make people more involved in the process and feel more represented in the process? And so we're going to start with Pat this time. I created a really complicated way, that was silly.
So I think that what excites people about government is when they have the opportunity to hear other people fight for them and have their voices heard. What has been very exciting about this campaign for me has been the tremendous outreach of people that typically don't vote. From online campaign videos where we linked to the Secretary of State's website, we in the primary alone had over 100 people click the link to go register to vote online. So I think that what is exciting about this race, what exciting about government races nationally, is that people want to be more involved. We're registering more people to vote. We did an outreach program to Marshfield high school seniors to get them registered to vote. Today was actually the last day. We had over 70 people from Marshfield High's senior class register. So I hope that they come to town meeting, and I hope to see them there, and I look forward to hopefully being their voice on Beacon Hill.
I think what we need to do is what we're doing. I think we're having a civil discourse in this campaign. It's been an excellent campaign. The primary, we discussed the issues in an adult way between the Republican, the unenrolled, and the Democrats. So I think people saw that and they started attracting to this race. But also I think the dynamic of social media is changing the way that people get involved. They can stay home and go to Facebook and go to Twitter and Instagram, which I'm finding it's challenging, but I'm working at it. And it is engaging, and you can reach out to hundreds, if not thousands, of more people than you would by just meeting people on the street corner at the supermarket. However, I think the civil engagement, going to town meeting, like last night at Marshfield town meeting, it is important because, we're giving up, we're sacrificing our time. We could be home watching the Red Sox or the Patriots game, but we're out there, we're there, sitting there, going through the tedious, article after article. But it's important, that's where community comes into play, and that's where I'm proud to be running as a representative. I've always been engaged civically, supporting other candidates over the years. Now I find myself as a candidate. It can be overwhelming, as my wife will attest, but it is very rewarding as well. So I think we're just going to keep on doing what we're doing, putting things in the newspaper, in the media, on Facebook. And when people talk about politics, at least on the local level, they see a positive, fun race, and they say, hey, that's something I'm going to grow up to be, I want to be a part of. And so we're attracting volunteers, younger people, and keeping the seniors and the older folks involved in the political game. So, thank you.
So I think this race in particular, I think it's drawn a lot of attention. I think a lot of people are engaged in it. It's not very often that this seat has changed. I think this would be the fourth seat, or the fourth new person in, I'm trying to add the years, at least 40, 50 years. So, I mean, it's exciting. I think people are engaged in it. I think a lot of people are very interested in this. And that was seen in the primary where we had 30% turnout, and both in Scituate and Marshfield just for our primary. I think you're going to see a lot more for the general election. And that's a midterm election. So, I mean, you're talking pretty big numbers. It's hard to get everybody involved. A lot of people don't care. But I think you're seeing a lot more involvement just talking to everybody, knocking on doors. They're engaged. They want to know. They want some fresh new blood. They want someone that's going to represent them, someone that's a working class citizen. As far as town meeting goes, I mean that's a tough one. I mean it's a Monday night after work. It goes late. I agree that you should be there and that you should be involved in your community and you should know where your money's going, especially your own tax dollars. It's very important. But I think unfortunately right now, a lot of people, they just want to read the updates, on Facebook, in the newspaper, and that's not the way. You have to be involved. You have to know where your money's going and have a voice for where it's going. It is yours. It's your right, and I think that whole mindset has got to change.
Segues segues nicely into our next question. So we started with Pat, start with Ed. So what kind of role do you see social media playing in communicating with your constituents? We obviously see that more and more as time goes on, especially from the newspaper perspective. Working with the Mariners, we see that as well. Both Marshfield and Scituate, I'm sure pretty much everyone here knows, have very active Facebook groups where people are actively discussing political issues. Do you find those to be valuable, and what kind of role do you think they should be playing?
I think they are valuable. I think sometimes the forums could get into a back and forth. However, I think being accessible to the voters and to the residents is a great thing. I notice a lot of state senators, state representatives have Twitter accounts, have Instagram accounts, have active Facebook accounts on social media. So you can go on there, you can see what's going on, you can read in-depth budget items or issue platforms that they have. So I think it is a great service.
I think our last state rep, Jim Campbell, did a great job using social media, just giving his updates during storms, and he used it to his advantage. I do feel there is a role, or there is a spot for it, especially in this race. I also feel that you can't believe everything you read. It can turn into a sore. Some people just try and pick fights on it. So you use it to your advantage. I like it to just update people what's going on, blast out some information, vote meetings, and everything like that. So it can be used to your advantage, but you also have to have the people following you and the people that are engaged in it. And a lot of seniors don't want to use it. So you still have to use newspapers, the old handshake, give them a telephone call. That works too.
Great.
I think social media is key, not only in a campaign, but also key as an elected official. What is most important, and what I've been committing to since the beginning of this campaign, is accessibility talking to people, hearing their concerns, and any way that I can hear that concern, that platform is of value to me. When I knock on someone's door and speak with them, I write them a handwritten thank you note and include my cell phone number. If someone's not home, I write them a postcard, that includes my cell phone number too. For anyone who I haven't knocked on their door yet, or for anyone that has a follow-up question for me that doesn't have that, cell phone number, or misplaced it, they can contact me through Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. I think that the most important part of social media is not only getting your message out there and talking about the priorities that Marshfield and Scituate are facing and how you're going to be an advocate for those priorities, but also to allow all the residents to contact you in any way possible so that the priorities get heard. And I'm finding that it's a useful tool. I've heard from a lot of people in Marshfield and Scituate, and I've learned a lot through the various social media platforms because of people reaching out. So, and it's exciting. It's also engaging more of the younger generation to get out there and get registered to vote. So I'm proud to be using it, and I'm going to continue to use it, hopefully, as your next state rep.
Okay, so that means we'll start with Nate for the next question, and this is going to be our last one before closing statements. So say you are elected state rep, what will be your first priority on day one?
Well, according to Sean Costello, it would be fine in the bathroom. I think I can find it. Like I said, I think with this, the opioid problem and everything, I think the first thing I could do, and it's very simple, it's a very no-brainer, piece of legislation that could get put through is putting through this Section 35, a piece of legislation. And then it's just be supporting my education plan that I've talked about from the onset, and possibly even the coastal infrastructure. I'm a big proponent of WADs. I think they are the future. I think they are the answer. They replenish the beaches, and they will protect our seawalls that we are investing quite a bit of money into. It's inevitable that the ocean is rising. We can't control that. We can't control Mother Nature. We have to protect our shorelines.
So I've heard a lot about a lot of the issues we're facing here in Marshfield and Scituate, and if I'm elected, hopefully, I think that we're facing all of those issues are a priority, whether that's clean tap water, combating the opioid crisis, making sure that we have a senior center, adequate roads, that our education system is fully funded. They're all priorities. And I think that, as a state rep, it's your job to make sure that all of those are being acted on and voted on. As a state rep, my number one priority to tackle all of those issues is to bring more votes to the House floor. Right now, they're only required to be in a formal session, I believe it's once a week, and a lot of things die in committee. I'd like to bring more things to the House floor, increase transparency, and allow the voters in the Commonwealth to see where their representatives are voting on things, and bring those things to a vote so that they feel as though their concerns and their voices are heard and represented, and if they don't feel as though they're represented, to vote for someone else to represent them. So increased transparency would be my number one priority.
As your next state representative, my main priority would be the infrastructure, which is a combination of a few things, of course, but the seawall repair and your groundwater situation is unacceptable. I think we need to repair, Hummerock, get that done quickly, in a timely manner, in a safe manner, and on budget. Also, the groundwater situation. Advocate strongly on Beacon Hill. Get some resources so we can do the flushing on an annual basis, so that maintenance can be done. Pipes, bought and the pipes renewed for the entire stretch, not just 1/4 of it, which we have right now in Scituate. That would be my priority, to make sure these projects get the concern and the attention of the corner office of Governor Baker, Lieutenant Governor Polito. I've built a relationship with them over the years. I think I'll be able to make my voice heard and let the residents of Scituate and Marshfield get the projects that they need done and the funding that they need for good education, for excellent roads, and for strong seawalls. Get those done, and I'll do that as your representative.
Thanks, Ed. So that concludes the amount of questions that we have right now. Thank you guys so much for your candor and for your efforts to stay on topic, being so peaceful with everyone, which is great to see in this kind of setting. So for closing statements, we're going to do the opposite order that we started with. So it's going to go Nate, Ed, Pat. And each candidate has 2 minutes.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. My constituents have voiced their displeasure with the current state of politics, both on the national and the state level, between the Democrats and the Republicans. Contrary to common opinion, it is not a disadvantage to be an independently minded individual in politics, not afraid to stand up for what is right for our district. I am not a common politician. I am one of you. I know your everyday struggle. I live it every day. I'm not going to use this as a political stepping stone to further my political career as a firefighter, paramedic, public servant. I want to continue to give back to the community that has given me so much. If change, transparency is what you want, I humbly ask for your vote on November 6th. Don't be afraid to vote for someone that lives in your shoes and has the pulse of the community and is not afraid to stand for what he believes in. Don't be afraid to stop the quote-unquote insanity.
Thank you, James, and thank you everyone for attending tonight, and my colleagues for being here as well. I have the necessary qualifications and experience to be your next representative. I'm a graduate of Wentworth Institute of Technology and earned an MBA in finance from Suffolk University. I have over 30 years of combined experience in the private and public sector, working for GE, Raytheon, and for the past 26 years in the State Treasurer's Office and at the Lottery Commission. In addition to that, for the past 8 years, I've been a reserve deputy sheriff working in both Scituate and Marshfield. My many years of involvement in the community and public affairs give me the ability to work closely with legislative colleagues and the governor's administration on day one. When elected, I will be a full-time representative who will be fiscally accountable and always accessible to the residents of Scituate and Marshfield. I'll listen to your concerns and I'll bring those issues to Beacon Hill. I'll be accessible, I'll be responsive to your needs, and I respectfully ask for your vote on Tuesday, November 6th. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to participate in tonight's forum. Thank you all for attending, and thank you to the Scituate Chamber of Commerce for putting this on, James moderating. Thank you guys for coming as well. My family roots in Scituate date back to 1928, and they have instilled in me a love for this coastal community. I'm eager to roll up my sleeves and chart a better course for its future. The reality is all generations are not equally represented at the State House. We're facing issues like climate change, school shootings, unaffordable cost of public higher education, and these issues require a new generation of leadership that puts fiscally responsible attitudes and common sense legislation to work so that without a doubt we can maintain sustainability for our resources and services. Our seawalls need to be strong. Our clean tap water needs to be accessible. Our fishing industry and our regulations need to be sustainable. Our teachers and students need safe learning environments. Our veterans that are coming home from serving us need access to housing and health care. Our Scituate Senior Center needs to be built. We keep electing people who don't know what it's like to walk in the shoes of the people that they're going to represent on Beacon Hill. I bring the passion, the firsthand experience, the energetic leadership and stamina to fight for you and do what's right by Marshfield and Scituate up on the Hill. I'm the candidate with the wherewithal to know your priorities the communication and proven collaboration skills to work with any and all officials on both sides of the aisle to get things done for Scituate and Marshfield. I bring the political courage to get the job done for you. I volunteer as a neighbor and community member to help my neighbors and my community. I extend my thanks to Jim Cantwell for his support, Sean Costello for his support, and the scores of individuals that have been helping my candidacy. My team would love to hear more. I'm at electpatrickkearney.com. Myself, 781-690-7923. I would humbly ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. And thank you all for coming.